shaders, the first thing that comes to mind, I mean, what are shaders, right? Like what are the
Right.
advantages of using shaders? I mean, maybe you can start talking about that a little bit. We
Yes.
only have, I think, half an hour left of this meeting today. So, and then
Yes.
afterwards, what we could do is go to your world if you would like, and people can see
I can
all of
connect
the
to the
shaders that
PC
you've
or
done. So let's
Yeah,
just
just some example shaders I made. Yeah.
stay for too long. It will make
yeah. So
the
let's
speech short.
right now just talk about what are shaders. So tell us what shaders are.
Yeah. So shaders are basically like small programs that calculate the surfaces of objects. So there are some, I think everyone, when they use Unity, knows the standard shaders. You can set the color of the objects or the materials and like textures and normal maps and everything. And when you use custom shaders, like with Amplify or with Shader Graph, you can actually do custom shaders where you have different channels and manipulate them and calculate different layers or effects on it. And so you actually can set up all your parameters for this shader. For example, you can move the texture on it, or you can move another layer, and you can even set the different parameters like the opacity or the movement, and you can do an animation on it. So there are really many different examples. What we can do with it, and I think we just look at some. It's difficult to show it without any screen sharing, so
No,
I think
sure,
it's
sure.
best we
But
just
so you're saying a shader is like a
可
super
以看看移动
material?
时
Is
间，
that
我们先不要讲
correct?
话。
It's
So
the
instead of
calculation behind. Yeah, it's the calculation behind the material. So in the standard shader, you have this. You have the. I think you have about 4 channels. It's the albedo channel where you can choose the colors. You have the normal map. You have the smoothness, and you have the depending on the shader, there's a specular one and the normal one. And so you can just set the images. But when you want to do more, you can't do it with just the standard shaders. You can download some from the asset store, but so if you want more custom stuff, you can actually program them yourself. You can program them, or you can use a shader tool that compiles the shader to code. So you don't have to code everything. You just can set all the different nodes and combine them and do some calculations there. So it's easier to look what happens there, because the shader code is really complicated for most people, I think. I also don't really want to do that. It's really, really complicated. But with the shader tool, you can, it's still really, it can be really complex, like really complex shaders with a lot of different nodes and all are combined, and it can be complicated, but it's not that complicated.
In fact, I mean, I saw that because you recommended the Amplify tool. Is that correct? And that was on sale the Unity store about a month ago, and I bought it and have just started getting into it, and it, as you say, appears to be very complex. And so, I mean, Amplify you have to buy. Are there free tools available? If
so there are shaders? There are 2 other tools. There's this Shader Forge tool. It's free, but I wouldn't recommend it now because in the next URP update, it shouldn't work anymore. And it's not really in development still, so we will just get the latest version and it's not supported anymore. But with the new URP update on September, I think it was the 15th September, you will get the URP update and you can use Shader Graph. Shader Graph is also really similar to Amplify shaders, and you can just it's built into Unity, so you can just use that one. So when you don't want to buy a tool, you can just wait for Shader Graph in URP and just use that. That's probably the easiest way. I think most people will do it with that tool. I like Amplify because it's like a really it's really good support. There's a really big Discord channel with all, you can ask questions, and there's thousands of people that can just show examples and everything. But the good thing about shader tools is when you do it in one shader tool, it's really easy to do it in another shader tool because the nodes and everything is really similar. So it looks a little bit different, but so the difference is not so big that you can't reproduce it in another tool.
So is that the biggest learning curve you think in terms of shaders, is just learning how to string all of those nodes together and what goes where?
Yeah. So there are simple nodes like add. So you have one texture, you have another texture, and you just add them together. That's the most simple one. That's multiply. Then when you have a texture and multiply it with texture that's at 0 to 1 or just one channel 0 to 1, you will just make it darker when it's going to 0. So there are different things you can do. You can subtract them. This is the simple nodes, but there are also more complex nodes like the parallax effects. That when you have the texture, you can actually move it behind the actual object. So you will see that in one example. When we visit it, it's the BRC portal. We have it now on the Burning Man. There's one world for Burning Man, the entrance world, and there's also the portal. And you will see when you move in front of the shader, so the background is offsetted, and you have different layers, and it's actually 3D and like a 3D effect. Or you can have like a displacement on the shader, so it looks like water. And actually, you can apply it to all layers, like a texture and like an image, and you can manipulate the UVs of the node to get that effect. You have all kinds of calculations how to do this noise effect.
Yeah, we went there yesterday. I mean, you guys will be blown away if you haven't seen what Niko has done in terms of shaders, but the portal to Burning Man, I mean, it's just amazing. And if you did that with a texture and a mesh, the size difference would be tremendous, correct? Shaders enable you to make reduced weighted objects.
Yeah. So a good thing about shaders, if you calculate many of the noise, you don't really need much of video or images or textures. You can actually, so like the water for nymphs, the water portal we will see only is 3 megabytes. And it looks like a video, and it's even 3D, so you wouldn't be able to do that with just a video. So when everything is calculated in the shader, it's really light, so only a few megabyte, depending on what kind of pictures you're using. But also it's really performant. So when you do actual high mesh 3D objects and animate them, it's really heavy on the performance. But when you do everything in shaders, almost everything, but you don't really have mesh animations, it's really highly performant. So I have this one planet system world. It has many different planets, even with all the animation of the surfaces and the displacement on some of the gas planets or the sun, and even the atmospheres. But it don't really use much of the performance of even the Quest devices. So it's really a performant way to do complex visual textures and animations without too many calculation power.
No, it's exciting, and you mentioned URP, and I'm sure that a lot of people here, including myself, are keen to see what the advantages of URP are going to be when it comes to alt space in particular. Could you perhaps talk a little bit about that?
I'm not sure about every part of URP. So the general it seems to be more performant on Quest devices or Android devices. It has some advantages. It has some disadvantages, at least in the current version. Like some things doesn't work anymore, like light cookies or reflection box reflection probes. That it's still a problem. Future versions will have that again. For shaders, I'm not sure about every thing inside the shaders, what will work and what not. I just hope that the Amplify shaders, it also supports URP, so I just hope that I can update every shader I made to URP without much problem. But I'm not 100% sure if there's some channel that can't be used, or I will see that, yeah.
So when you're working with shaders, do you need to create a separate layer? You were talking about layering them. So is that layering them in the animation or actually layering them in the Unity scene?
No, so in the Unity scene, you only need one object. It's a mesh, and then you get the material. So when you select a material, you can select also the shader. So in the standard shader, you have like the 4 channels. It's the albedo, smoothness, metallic, and I think it's emissive. But when you do a custom shader, you can apply all the different textures you want to have. Like you can have albedo 1, albedo 2, albedo 3, and normal map, and you can even have like 3 normal maps and animate them. That's the layers. That's what I mean by layers.
Okay.
But you can offset them to like with a parallax effect, or you can do other kinds of animations on it, or so there are really many things you can do with it. You can calculate gradients on it. I don't know. So the possibilities are almost endless when you know all the different nodes. But I think we just have to look at some.
Right, definitely. Yeah, we'll go over there in a couple of minutes. I'd also like to, if anyone has any questions before we go over there, go ahead. This is, go ahead,
Yeah.
yes.
We have some custom shaders here, do we not? This is the Videogasm sign, and these twinkling lights are probably custom shaders, I would think.
Yeah, it looks like yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
It could also be an animation on the standard shaders, maybe. But yeah, that would be a good use case for that.
Yeah, this world was built by Hazard. I don't know if any of you know him. He's just done an excellent job. This is actually for those of you that don't know, you're actually on the playa in Burning Man at the Videogasm camp, and we just opened up our box office. This is a new addition to our camp, and we're going to be having a film festival here next week. So, just a little side note on that. So, are any other questions, or was that?
Yeah, I had one follow up. It's about he was talking about the nodes, but my understanding of it was there would be a lot of custom code, a lot of writing scripts, and is that a problem when you do the upload, or is that acceptable? Those aren't kicked out, or yeah.
No. So you don't really need much of coding, no C# code or anything. Okay. So you can use custom expressions inside the nodes of Amplify, but that's not C# code. It's just some shader code, and that's not blocked by ILSpace. So I never really had a problem when I just use the shaders. It comes through. It's not a problem. Because it's a shader code, it's not C# code that works.
Right. Okay, thank you.
One of the fun things about Amplify, as I said, I bought it and I just finally started getting into it, is they have an amazing selection of examples that you download after you install the product into Unity. And, for example, water. is one I've been playing with, and it's a good way to learn.
Yeah, water is one example. I think without any shaders, you can't really do good water. So in the standard shader, you only get this texture on the water and maybe some specularity and maybe even some animation with the animation tool, but you don't really get the water effect. And shaders, so we have really different methods to do water and shaders, and even like the foam of the water and everything. You can do many things. So there's one problem. So things like reflection. So shaders also have reflection. So when you see object behind the object, it's like it's blurred or refracted. So it's in a different angle. That doesn't work with AltSpace. So you have to know what you can do in AltSpace and what not. And when you just deactivate, when you just deactivate it, then it works. But it's not fully supported in AltSpace at the moment. Maybe it will change in URP, but I think we will all have to find out.
Yes, it's certainly going to be an interesting couple of months after they make the changes. It's definitely putting everyone on an increased learning curve. So good. Other questions that people have for Niko? Everyone, yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Go ahead, late boomer.
Yeah, I have a very specific question. Is there anything special you need to do to incorporate light maps in a shader?
You can turn them on and or off. There's an option. So in Amplify, I can just talk for Amplify now because I never used shader graph before. But when you just don't select any node and go to the left side and scroll down, there is an option for that it uses light maps. So actually, there is a setting for that. I think the standard, when you just make a standard Amplify shader, I think it's checked, so it should work without anything. Yeah, but sometimes you have some problems and you have to find out what it is. Yeah, but in general it works with Amplify shaders.
Okay, great, thanks.
There are nodes to access it also.
Oh, nodes to access the light map.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay, could be. I would have to look it up, but light map. So you can actually get the light. So, yeah, you can do like custom lighting. You actually can get the real time light, even the real time lights when you have them to calculate that. So for example, I made a shader where you have a flashlight in your hand here, and with the UV light, like a pink or ultraviolet light, and when you point it to a surface, I can make the shader appear some text on the wall, for example. So I actually can get light and see what light is this that's coming to the shader, and when it's like the specific color, I can show an emissive texture for this part where the light is on.
Yeah, that was totally amazing. That was the light brush you had, right, where you can actually paint on the wall. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're all in for a treat in a few minutes. Any other questions? Good?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sigrid.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. I have a question.
Hi.
When you open your project in Unity, you have to choose the 3D option or universal render pipeline. I ask you because I've been trying with universal render pipeline, but it doesn't work because when I export to AltSpace, everything looks magenta, and I would like to know which option is the better.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question because at the moment, so on the September 15th, there will be an update. At the moment, we have to use the built-in rendering pipeline, also not the URP pipeline. Until then, the standard pipeline. You can upload the URP now, but it will not work on the current Altspace version. So there's an experimental, so a test version for URP that's somewhere. I don't really know where I get it, but you can test the URP, and on the September 15th, everyone will see the URP, just the URP versions.
Yeah, if you go to the Altspace Discord channel, I believe it's under World Builders or one of those categories. There's links to the test environment where you can test the URP build. But as Niko said, right now, if you try to upload a URP build with the I think what's the 2.0 uploader, it just isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Good. Other questions? Thoughts, comments before we head off to see some amazing, mind-blowing stuff that Niko has done? Okay, so let's go ahead and open a portal, Niko, and
yeah, I think we'll start with the UV flashlight. We'll start with this one. John?
yes, sorry, juggling things here.
Everyone, yeah, looks good. Chris, you? Okay. Okay, wait a moment. Okay, everyone in? Okay, so this is this here is a kit. I imported it. It has a light. You can see the light on the wall over there. Take it. I can make this light, and when I place it to this, you see that this special map appears. So that's a shader, and it reacts to this light. So this wouldn't work with standard shaders because you just don't have the interaction of the light with the environment.
That's very cool.
Is it the light that's making it appear, or is it the shader itself that's waiting for the light?
The shader itself is waiting for the light, and it looks like it gets the light, and if the light is has a specific defined color, this is violet light, it shows the different image and adds the separate layer on it.
Great, really nice.
Yeah, you can try. You can just take the light here and yeah.
Sorry. Could you technically then do different colors and shade it with different lights, activating different messages?
So that should be possible. Yeah. Just have like a green light or a red light, and that would, and you will see different images appear on each light. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Nice.
So do you have a layer for the albedo and then a separate layer that you conditionally render for the emissive?
Yeah, so the emissive texture on it is actually another channel. So I can, so there's a limit of 16 different textures. So you can do a albedo, you can do a emissive, and you can do another emissive texture for the color interaction. So you can just define it in the shader. You don't not really limited to the layers or emissive. You can also choose a different name like color or UV map or whatever.
Cool.
Okay, that was this shader. Now let's go to the next one. It's my test room where I have all kinds of shaders and also the Burning Man portal.
Super player,
Everyone,
you coming in?
okay.
Okay, he's gone.
Oops.
Yeah, this is some kind of testing ground here, where I test new shaders and then try how it would look. And some are good, some are more not really usable. So there are some spheres here with different kinds of shaders. It's called a madcap shader, where there's a video on it and it always points to you. That's like this one over here. So it looks like there's something inside there, but it's actually just a video that's played always it's always pointing to you, and it depends on the angle you're looking to the object. So it looks like an animated sphere. And I also try to apply it to the alt-space models here.
Is it possible to make a shader that causes a flat plane to face the user?
It's a madcap shader. That's actually a flat plane that's facing to you. But
so it would be a billboard. A flat plane?
No, it's a sphere, but it's actually a flat texture that's pointing to you. You can also do it with a shader. So it's a billboard. I think it's called billboard. You can actually also do it with a shader. But the mesh you need for that is not that easy to do. Always had some problems with that. So when I want to make a flat like a flat plane that's pointing to you, I always use particles for that. I just use a particle that's just in one position, and the billboard option for that is really easy to use. So that's how I do it. That's the easier way to do it.
So a single particle then.
Yeah, and another shader, it's over here, behind the other spheres here. So this is also a shader, but I applied a vertex offset to it. So the surface is moving, and it's just normal sphere mesh here, but it looks like it's moving, and it's this shader that's doing the animation. Also the same method for this one here. So everything you see here, so the original object is this one here. It's just some some cubes, and they are animated into this kind of object.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And you see that I can have the vertex offset, so the offset of the cubes, and also the colors of the cubes. So I can you can manipulate everything how you want in the shader.
Do you have to?
And what
like,
are you using?
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry. Go,
Mhm.
go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how technical is it to do something like this? Do you have to code in a lot of, each of the layers, or is this? I don't know how to say it.
So the animation in that shader is just don't know how it's called. It's radial UV distortion. So it's a noise map that's animated, and I can grab every part of the image to set it to the height, so I get when it's lighter, I can get so I just make the vertex offset higher. So it has a value, and then I just use that value to offset the surface.
Okay.
But there are actually no textures in it besides the noise map.
You can see as the color goes back, it goes to the darker shades, and
Yeah.
it's changing it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but you could also, when you want it the opposite way, you can just take the node where the value is in, and like take the one and subtract the value to it. So we have the darker parts on the front and the lighter parts on the back. So you can just flip it if you want in the shader.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So this was done by just the shader, or a shader and an animation in Unity, or just the shader?
This is actually just a shader.
Just the shader. Okay.
It's amazing.
But how
Yeah.
do you make the animation into the layer shader?
You can you
animation.
Yeah, the noise is with animations. So you can do animations inside the shader. So you have different functions to move and animate noises and even textures. But it's not the animation tool in Unity, so you don't really have to do animation in the animation window. You can set you have some you can set some parameters like the speed. You can just set it and connect everything to the nodes, and you can just have some kind of bar that you can move and make it faster or slower.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the portals of Burning Man. They are over there. You can't miss them. It's a red portal. So I have a blue one. It's for nymphs, and a red one for Burning Man. So everything you see there is just 2D textures with on different layers. And when you move left and right, you can actually see that it's offsetted differently. So it's a parallax effect, and it looks like a 3D effect, but it's actually not. It's just one plane. So the mesh is just one plane.
Indeed.
So do you need multiple layers to get that parallax effect? With the text in front?
Yeah, so the text is on a different texture node, and the other one's on a other texture nodes. But you can set the parallax effect for each node if you want. Yeah. And you can also add things like the glowing ring around it, so it's also always also only a generation of the noise, and rotate it a little bit, and it's also has this when you look really close, you see that it's having this this noise on the other textures behind it. So it's like a like when the heat of the fire that's coming out. You can also see the water version over there, so you has this water effect, and when you look at the image behind it, it's also influencing this image. So the only image you see in there is the face and the water. So there's two images. The rest is just done with a shader. And the good thing with blenders, you can use blending modes. Like when you have Photoshop, you have blending mode like soft lights or add or overlay, and you can do that in shaders. So you can have different blending modes for the different layers.
You have an image from the text.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, the text just blends in and out. So that's an animation in the animation tool. But the rest is all done in the shader.
Oh, okay, it's outside of the shader of the text.
No, the text is also in the shader. It's a text node. Yeah. And I just in an animation tool, I just set the opacity of the text.
Beautiful work.
It's like a full trailer in a shader.
And on the when you fly, activate fly here and look to the back. Behind it, there's this water sphere behind it. Yeah.
So when are you going to start your Patreon so that you can get access to the source file?
I have a Patreon, but I didn't include the source files yet. But I can think about including source files on Patreon. Yeah.
It would be cool. So how does one find that?
It's in my hub world. I think I have my hub world. So when you look over there, so in the right side of my statues and the models there's a hub world, and there you can find it. You can also go in there because I also have a shader on the wall there. It's not that interesting, but maybe, yeah, you can look at it.
Everyone gets into actually doing shaders and get the projector going so you can show us a little bit more on Unity itself. But thank you again. And any last questions for Niko?
No, I just wanted to say great plan B. This was really informational and might make more sense to do this prior
It
to.
was a little improvised.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very sad I missed the first bit. Hopefully I can catch the next ones.
Put this out in video too, so anyone that wants to see it, it should be available. You know, hopefully there's no glitches there. Good, well, and thank you for attending, and we're looking forward to a great Burning Man and lots of interesting stuff coming. So I'm going to go and check out Niko's Hub World and go on from there. So thank you again.
Niko, is this in fact your day job? Are you a professional 3D artist? I'm curious.
No, I'm not a 3D artist. Just do it as a hobby. I'm a programmer, and that's my real job. So it's not that far from it, but I'm not doing much 3D stuff. Also some design work, but more like web design. And
oh wow, that's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Nicely arranged.
Yeah, it is. It is. John, did you copy the data from the
yes.
Google Drive?
Yes, thank you for
from
doing
yesterday?
that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I can erase that one from my.
I did
account.
already. Yeah, on yours.
Awesome.
I erased it off. Yeah.
Great. That's good.
My menu here, bookmark this.
Yeah. I mean, it will be quite a change when we're moving over to shader graph. I used it several times. It's really nice. You have a lot of possibilities with shader graph. So in that case, I think it's a good option. And there are a lot of tutorials out there.
Ah, okay. The shader graph within Unity, right?
Within Unity, yeah. Built-in tool.
Right.
You have to understand shaders.
So do you think that, I mean, one of the questions I was going to ask is, do you think Amplify Shader is going to be depreciated then because of Unity's own tools, or?
Well, depreciated, I don't know, but I guess that in the end, most people will just fall back on this integrated tool because first it's there. It's powerful, in my opinion. There's anything in there that you need. Sure, if you have a tool that gives you much more predefined and pre-made shaders that you're just going to alter, that's a different approach. But if you're really thinking of making your own shader, sure, you have to learn all the things, and it's a lot. It's a steep learning curve in understanding when do you need the world position of the camera to do something. This world position to alter movement on a texture when the camera moves and stuff like that. And there's a lot to learn about what kind of data is that. Is that just a floating value? Is it an array of values you have to change or whatever? So there's a lot to do. But I think if you really want to do something special and sophisticated, you will have to look behind all these little bars, let's say. Otherwise, yeah, if you did not understood all the different data points and stuff, it's hard to do a real shader by yourself.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting more into it. And,
I mean, you can start today basically because you have tons of YouTube tutorials and stuff, and you can use it and you can see the results. And I think it's 6 weeks now until they're going to release the new version for Altspace. So until that time, you will be settled, probably. I don't know if
Niko, this is amazing.
Yeah, I want to do more stuff with this. This is just not like I wanted to have, but yeah, it's okay.
I
for
like
now.
how clean it is. How these portals and your it's yeah. I just like the cleanness of it. Makes sense. Chris and I were just talking about, I guess whether Amplify shader is going to be depreciated with, at some point, but it sounds like both can exist, right? The internal shader and
yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. So the Amplify just compiles the shader code and do it for URP. So I think it should work with a new version. I really hope so. I never tried it yet.
Doesn't Amplify shader just make shader code so that you can actually look at the code?
Yeah, you can also look at the code. Yeah. So shader graph should do the same, and I know that Amplify supports URP, so it should be possible to update to URP and just recompile all shaders. So that's my plan, but I don't know what problems there will be. So maybe some nodes work differently, or maybe some channels are different, or some settings. That's the details that I still have to find out.
But I got the sense that the Amplify shader, and that's why I ended up getting it, because it wasn't a closed system. It actually created the shader script so that you can then just open up an editor and look at the shader script.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay. And does the new shader graph do that too?
It should be possible to look
Basically
at the code.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have this visual overview, and you're just putting nodes together, and you can see directly how the shader works, and then the code is done in the background, and you can also see it in the end. But basically, you will just apply that to an object, and then you can see the results. You can set up your own little inputs, like if you want to adjust in the editor when you're using the shader in your scene, for example, if you want to change some numbers. You just generate them.
And it has to compile the shader code somehow, or else it wouldn't work. So I think it does. I don't know where the button is, but yeah.
But it's the difference between going from a node environment directly to compiled shader code versus going from a node environment to the script that then gets to the compiled code. And one of the things that I was researching what tool to buy, the Amplify shader, put it into this intermediate script so that you could actually just go look. And if I were to write this shader code from scratch by myself without the node graph, that's what it would look like. And it was a great learning tool to have that intermediate step. And I just don't know if the new shader graph goes from the node straight to compiled shader code, or if it gives you that intermediate thing.
No, there's no window when you're working on shader graph. In my opinion, I never saw a window that is just listing the shader code. That is, when you change something, you add whatever kind of texture. Let's say it's not like writing down then whatever a kind of code. You can do it. You can see the result, and in the end, you can open the shader and see the code, right? But then, the shader is already applied to the object, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't know what will happen in shader graph when you just edit the code. If it's applied to the node view or not. So in Shader Forge, it was only one way. It wasn't really possible to do it the other way, or you could change some metadata on top of the code, but it was difficult. So I always had problems with Shader Forge, but I think no one will use Shader Forge in the future because it's not supported anymore.
I mean, for learning shaders, there's something like RenderMonkey and a lot of other online tools that are creating shaders, and you have 4 windows most of the time. And one window is the code window. And when you change something on the node, you directly see what the code is changing to. So you can see what is affecting what command is doing.
What was that called?
On the object. Oh, there are a lot of different. You just have to Google for learning shaders or learning shading languages like GLSL or whatever, and there are a lot of online projects that do that.
Well, I'm just going to subscribe to Niko's Patreon, and he's going to teach me everything.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So, Niko, what is your Patreon? Hey, Mr. Pete, what is the Patreon called again?
It's on the middle screen over there. So I still have to think about what would we get for it. At the moment, it's just some previews, but I'm working on that.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna browser right now.